Welcome back. This is Billy with Coach Dooley's List. And once again, if you are enjoying these coaching videos, please like and subscribe to the YouTube page and follow on all of our social media platforms. Today, I'm here at Hart County High School with head girls basketball coach Mike Edwards. And Coach, I appreciate taking the time to meet with us.
Thank you. Glad to do it.
Yeah, and Coach, just kind of jump right into it. Just tell everybody about your coaching journey and how you ended up here at Hart.
Well, I'm originally from South Georgia, Valdosta, Georgia. Coached down at Bowwood School, a private school, for 3 years. Coached at Lowndes High School, and coached multiple sports: football, baseball, basketball, track, and kind of settled on basketball. And one thing I found: the further north you go, the more important basketball is. And not a knock on football. Love football, played it, but in South Georgia, specifically Valdosta, it's like football's number one, and then spring football's number two, and then everything else kind of falls in line. So I guess it's the closer you get to North Carolina and Indiana geographically. North Georgia's a lot closer. Basketball just seems to have a little more importance. And Hart County was attractive because they have a great winning culture and tradition historically. Especially the girls program. I wish I was here then, but I didn't have anything to do with the run of 6 state championships. But you figure those girls are going to have daughters, and maybe we'll get back to that winning way. But been here 22 years. Love it. Have a few more years before I can retire. And my wife and I say all the time, if we would have stayed in South Georgia, we would have been looking to move here anyway after retirement. So we feel like we're already where we would retire to.
No, and we were talking before, Hart was a great place, and especially a retirement place. But I kind of always go back to, like I said, you weren't there with some of those 6 state championships, but how many daughters have you coached whose mamas were on those teams?
Well, we were fortunate enough in 2019, both the boys and girls program made it to the state championship. Neither one of us, unfortunately, won. I had a son that played in the boys program, but my, all-star, all-state point guard, AAA player of the year that year, Torian Starks, her mother played on those teams. And I've had other like aunts and nieces and things like that. I've met a lot of them. We've had, days where they could come back, alumni games, and, great group of people. Eddie McCurley, know him very well. He coached on the first floor. Glenda Gibson, her and I taught across the hall from each other. So got to meet Glenda, and it was neat. When we made it to the state championship, you had the Atlanta TV stations coming up here, and like Glenda and Eddie came into the gym and they would interview them. And, it was, in the small towns, culture like this. When we played in Savannah for the Final Four, and I remember coming out on the floor and looking up, and we were playing at Armstrong, which holds 4,000 or 5,000. It's like a wall of orange. And the same thing, we both made it. And again, I had the pleasure of coaching my girls, but then watching my son,
That's awesome,
play. And with
the whole town there watching,
right? In Macon, it was the same way. We're playing in the the Centraplex, and you look up, and it's like Hart County definitely travels well. So that's we're covered by the radio. I always like doing the radio interviews. You get to some of the bigger places, they don't even know what we're talking about with the radio. So you know what I'm saying? It's just not a thing anymore. But here we have WKLY, who they cover, most of our region games and some big games, and it's neat to talk to them because my wife works in dentistry, and she'll have patients come, have been around for a long time. I don't even know them, but they come in. They're like, I heard what your husband said on the radio, and they listen, religiously. They can't get to the game in person. So it's just different in this, kind of small town atmosphere, and we've loved being here.
Well, I love that. It makes me think about the Braves. Growing up, every night you watch the Braves. You're like, hey, every Tuesday and Friday at 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock, tune in for the games. That's really, really cool. So, and being here for 20 something years now, and having a good run and having a lot of good teams. Sometimes coaches change about, what they want their program to be and that kind of stuff. So, now today, after all these years, what is it you want your Hart County girls basketball program to be known for?
Monday this week was our first day of tryout / practice. And, the theme, we like toughness. Our focus, because I always ask them about an hour into practice, I'll stop. Like, what do you think our focus is? Everything we've done is a defensive drill. Yes, you have to score the basketball, but our focus, especially early season, that mindset, that defensive mindset, being tough, physically being in the right spots, playing together, communicating, talking. I've had, the pleasure of coaching against some very good coaches. Harry Marsh being one. Harry coached at Hart County boys. He coached the Franklin County boys for a couple of years. He coached the girls at Franklin and boys simultaneously. When then he actually coached my son. So, he would tell me, and Harry coached for 40 plus years. He's like, one thing about your teams is you played hard, no matter. We've been on the right side of scores and then the wrong side of scores. He said, your kids buy into what you're telling them, what you're trying to get across. Coming from somebody like that, that's a huge compliment, in my opinion.
No, I love that. And, and over the years, been here and I love talking to coaches all coaches, but especially ones that have been somewhere for a long time, because that doesn't always happen, especially in the basketball world.
Right.
You get coaches kind of move around, that kind of stuff. So, you always have stories that you love to think about. You probably have a lot. You can tell as many as you want. What's one of your favorite coaching stories from over the years?
Well, obviously that 2019 team was a great, just run. Interesting thing. It kind of runs in cycles. You can see, and prior to that, like Franklin County girls were really good. We could get right there. We were always like second or third. Then we go through the phase of Morgan County. Morgan County, they had this tremendous run of both boys and girls. They're in our region, and we're right there. We lost several region championships to them. And then you never know where it's going to go with the GHSA. As far as, you don't.
Yeah.
Well, I'll get to the current landscape later, but at that time, then we had Jefferson. Jefferson comes into the region, and they were really good. The year we made it to the state championship, we played Jefferson 4 times. We played them in a preseason tournament, their Thanksgiving tournament. We played them twice in the region. They beat us all 3 times. And we didn't lose many games that year. I think we won 27. We were like 27 or maybe 29-7, something like that. So the 4th time we play them is for the region championship. They'd beaten us 3 times. I think we're down in that 4th quarter, and we pull it out, we win. And it was that's kind of the thing that tipped us or pushed us over the edge as far as the confidence level. And again, they were really solid. They made a run in the state tournament. But that team after that, the Final Four, we peaked 1 game too early. The number 1 team that year was Beach from Savannah, and the Savannah schools are always solid. And I think we're down 16 points in the 4th quarter of that game because and we come back and win.
Oh wow!
My All-State Player of the Year, Toriana Starks, made like 19 free throws in a row in the 4th quarter.
Wow!
To finish the game, we come back and barely win, and unfortunately, we found out the next week we played for the state championship. We're in a tie game with a minute to go, and they have a freshman who banks in a 3, and then they end up beating us by 4. But that same,
did she call it?
Oh no,
she called it.
I looked at the stats. I'm like, where did this come from? Yeah. And the funny thing about it, the team that beat us was Johnson. They're in the region with Beach. They could not beat Beach for anything, so we did their dirty work for them. We put Beach out, who number 1 team that year, and then we couldn't quite take Johnson out. Still, 6 years? I think about it only every day, but being that close. I've played as a player, as an athlete in high school. I've won state championships, so I know the difference. But it's just you second guessing even 6 years later, like what could we have done differently? But it was their day. It was not ours. Then unfortunately that year, it's like whatever we did, because Harry even told me this. He said, when y'all lost, he said, I knew we were, because they had to play Morgan County, who had beaten them 3 times or 2 times that year. And he's like, the guys fed off the girls, because they're friends and they classmates and all that. He's like, when I was hoping y'all pull it out, because I feel like that would have gave us that, that energy, how teenage minds work.
Oh yeah.
But of course I watched them and they came up a little bit short too. But it was just kind of a magical year. One other my first coaching job, this is a football story, so I'm not hating on football just because I'm a basketball coach. I started coaching at Valwood. I actually graduated from there, and my first year there was 97. The football team, I think that year I was maybe offensive, defensive line coach. First job, don't know what the heck I'm doing. I mean, there's a huge difference when you think, and you're a pretty good player, all region, all state type player. You're like, oh, I know this, until you start coaching it.
Yep.
It's a totally different thing when you have to have the whole line be on the same page rather than just you. So that team, the year before, they were 0-10. So I'm like, well, there's nowhere to go but up. And I was not the head coach. I was an assistant. Brett Martin, who's still there, a good friend of mine, the athletic director, been there almost over 30 years. Does a great job building that program up. So I had played at that school. We had won multiple state championships. So you think, like, what has happened? Why, 8 years ago, I graduated in 1988. 9 years ago, we're winning state championships. Now we're 0-10. And the first year, I'm like, I'm going to make a difference, this winning culture. Well, I did. We went 1-9 my first year. So again,
got to start somewhere.
Yeah, 1-9. And again, I'm just part of the staff. But then fast forward to these freshman kids who are 0-10. Then they're 1-9 their sophomore year. Junior year, it's like we go 500. We're 6-6. We make the state playoffs. I think we lose maybe win a round, lose in the second round. All right. Senior year, same group who had taken their lumps, plenty of lumps. Senior year, they go 12-2, win the state championship. So that was, that's why, and some people never get to experience that.
Oh, yeah.
But when you see something like that, and it doesn't have to be a state championship, it could be, getting to 500. But seeing your group grow and buy in and, the end result, again, I see those guys, they're in their 40s now, which is crazy because I was in my 20s coaching these teenagers. But in my mind, they're still, 16, 17, 18-year-olds. But, that's two of my favorite coaching stories. And there's many, all the teams I've coached have very fond memories of them.
Well, I love what you said too. These guys are 40. I'm 46, but when I first started coaching, I had a player the other day was like, "Coach, I'm 40 now," and I was like, "No, you're 18, and you'll be 18 forever."
They were like, "I have 3 kids." I'm like, "What? Yeah, how do you have 3 kids? You're still in high school." In my mind, especially when you move. I moved up here 23 years ago, so they have lived their lives where in my original hometown. And when I go back and run into them or see them, I really have not seen them in 20 years. So, that's.
Well, and I love too, like I said, that you do keep in touch, or even if it is just running into them. And I think that's always one of the coolest things about coaching. So, in running into them, or maybe assistant coaches, coming to you sometimes, if anybody ever came to you and was like, "Hey, coach, I think I want to be a head coach one day," what advice would you give them?
The first thing, my number one, the hill I die on is whoever you work for, be loyal to them.
Amen.
You may not agree, and I've worked for coaches I didn't agree, but you can learn. You can like who you coach with, or you can hate who you coach with. You can learn from both of them.
Yep.
If you're on a staff under someone, you're 100% loyal to them. I think that's one of the worst. If I ever hear of a situation where an assistant isn't, I'm not going to touch them. I mean, I've been blessed here. This is my 18th year as head coach. My staff now, every single one of them were my former players.
Oh, wow.
All right. But back in my first year, that staff, they were former Hart County players. I didn't coach them, obviously, but they were colleagues. And, now I have 3 assistants, 4. One's kind of what you would call a lay coach, but we really can't have those anymore, and more of an advisor.
Right.
And they're all, they played college basketball. Some of them did. Some of them just played high school. But all 4 have played for me. So when I say something, they've obviously bought into it in their lives. They are what I consider successful people. They have, degrees or good jobs, and they've came back and wanted to coach with me. So I must be doing at least a little bit right.
Oh yeah, and I've thought too. I've been fortunate to have a couple, and just having those ones that have played for you, so they know, hey,
Right.
this is how we do things. And obviously, some things could change, but they have that respect. They know what's wanted. It's a lot easier to turn things over and go, hey, you go do this, because they know what the expectation is. And obviously, you can convey that to all your assistant coaches, but it's just a different relationship.
Yeah.
So, all right, we're going to do something I didn't tell you we were going to do, because it wouldn't work the same. We're going to do a little rapid fire.
Okay.
No context. You don't have to give any meaning unless you want to. Just a couple questions. All right. So, because I love to travel, and I love to eat. What's the best place to eat here in Hartwell? No fast food.
Ooh, no fast food. Best place to eat in Hartwell. I would, being put on the spot like this.
You may know the owner.
I don't
so
eat out a lot. I really don't eat, because I smoke, I grill. You can ask my wife. My wife is a great cook, but I love to cook.
If she wants a date night, where are you going?
Probably Katichi. Katichi is a local golf course. The waterfall grill. What you would say for here, it's fine dining.
I've played there a couple times. I love that place.
Great golf course. They've been good to us over the years with sponsorships.
I love it. All right. If you had a pregame hype song, either now or when you were playing, what would it be?
All right. When I was playing, it was In the Air Tonight, Phil Collins.
Stop it.
Yeah,
Gibbs just told me the same thing.
That's the song. Now
you're a little older than Gibbs.
For my personal hype song, now we actually had to do this year, and I hope I have the title right. The artist is Toby Keith. The song is something about let me think about it for a second.
Not as good as I once was.
Not as good as I once was, but as good as I was once.
Yes,
as good as I ever was once. So that's, as you age, in my mind, I feel like I could go on the field and play, or the court, until I do it.
Yep.
I'm 56 years old now, but for that short burst, I'm gonna get you for 10 and 15 seconds. So but 4 quarters, I don't have 4 quarters in me anymore.
I love it. Who's the best coach you've ever coached against?
Been some good ones. One that pops right, because I know him on so many levels. Harry Marsh, and Harry and I have his daughter Augusta works here now at the high school, so I see her a lot. I see Harry. My very first job here in Hart County, I was the 9th grade boys head coach.
Right.
My first game was at Franklin County, and that year, and a lot of times varsity coaches don't do this. Harry's son Jared went to, because his wife teaches or taught in Hart County. Jared went to Hart County all through school. In 8th grade, he played 8th grade at Hart County Middle School. Well, in 9th grade, he rode with Harry. He wanted to play for his dad, which, of course, I would do the same thing. Well, the very first game, this is early, we've not even had a varsity game yet. At Franklin County, I'm coaching against Harry Marsh. I don't even have a record. I'm 0-0, not a varsity coach yet. And Harry's won state championships, and, Jared's on this team. And I didn't know him that well yet, but got to know him because our head coach was Jim Birch. Little did I know at the time, they're like best friends. Now, when they're coaching against each other, you would never, they're intense. They want to win. And there were several years where I think 2, maybe even 3, we played Franklin for the region championship. And Franklin, both those years, very good. They beat us in the regular season. We beat them and won the region title. That was on Saturday night. Sunday morning, Harry Marsh and Jim Birch were teaching Sunday school together. So that was kind of my first, I guess, sticking your toe in the water with that relationship. But over the years, coached against Harry as an assistant. Jim's the head coach. Then I became the girls' head coach, coached against him when he was Franklin girls. And then he came here and coached my son. So it was, I have many different relationships. And Harry, how he should be in the Hall of Fame. Guy's won like 700 games.
Yeah.
And, I think we've nominated, Matt has kind of led that charge of nominating him. But again, there's a lot of successful coaches across the state. So, to me, he's a definite Hall of Famer. And I think, Jim Birch, I learned more from Jim Birch coaching under him, never against him, but I learned more basketball from him in my first week than I knew in my life at that point. It was just the way he organized things, his film breakdown and all those things. So,
who's the best player you ever coached against?
Let's see, against. Okay, this one's so easy. Madison County, McPherson. What was her first name?
Oh, I know. About 4 or 5 years ago?
Yes.
Yes, I remember watching her. Yeah, oh, yeah.
Why can I remember her first name? Dan Lamb, good friend of mine. He was the coach then. That's the year. This is 2019. We go to the state championship. We're pretty daggum good. All right. For 3 quarters, we're getting after each other. All right. And why can I remember her name? McPherson. She was like Gatorade Player of the Year. That day, and I have Torian, who's AAA Player of the Year. And, Torian has a great game. We have several with a great game. Well, she takes it next level. And Dan told me this after the game. In the 5 prior games, she was 0 for 12, 13 from 3. Well, against us, she was 12 of 13 from 3. So we go through 3 quarters. Kyle Sandy, who does a lot for Georgia basketball, he was in the stands. This game is like, girls' games. It's like 63, 62 through 3 quarters. Well, she just goes off in the 4th quarter. She ends up with 64. She scores 64. They get it up in the 90s. She ended up being 11 of 12, 12 of 13 from 3, and she was so fastest player I've ever coached against. If she's hitting the 3, you can't lay off of her.
Yeah.
And she was just killing it. I think Torian had like 37 or something like that. I had another player in the 20s and 30s. But it was just even though we lost it, great game. And that was one of our losses that year. In the very first game, when we opened our new gym, there's a picture in my office. She's on the court. She's a freshman. The very first game at Hart, we held her to 0. Now, she's a freshman.
Yeah.
Now, later on, she got us back. If you do the average, she probably averaged 30. Yeah. But she's the best player in my time here that I've coached against.
Oh, I saw her when I was at North. I remember I went specifically just to see her because I'd kept hearing about her.
Yeah,
she was
tough.
something else. So, well, listen, that's one of the big reasons behind these interviews is one, I definitely want to help coaches out. You've said a lot of good things that will definitely help out young coaches, but I also trying to promote the website. And with Coach Dooley's list, the big idea is to try to just make it a one-stop shop for coaches. And so we've got vendors on there. So I always trying to add to them. They could be on there already, but who's a vendor that you've worked with that you would shout out to other coaches?
Well, up in this area, like one I work with for everything I do, Bill Palmer with Sports World over in Elberton. He does like trophies and things like that. As far as like, Huddle, obviously, good with them. We use BSN, Shuma. I mean, I had always been like an exclusive guy, and I was exclusive not to the company, but to the salesperson.
Yep.
My guy was Jerry Mars. All right. Jerry Mars from day one, he was at BSN, bought with him. He went to Shuma, went with him. Well, he retired. So when he retired, and now Matt and I are kind of very different. Matt is a Jordan guy. He only buys Jordan. I'll buy anything. Under Armour, Adidas, Nike, doesn't matter. So if hey, I'm open to your business if you're listening to this. But
get some calls.
I mean, come one, come all. But I've always had good luck with that, in this area, and we have a booster club that's supportive and our school supportive. So, our kids are maybe not the best, but we're very well taken care of.
Yeah. Well, and look, I know BSN, Shuma, Huddle are all on there. They all get shouted out all the time. I've got to you said Sports World?
Yeah, Sports World. Bill used to be a football official, so a lot of guys might know him as that. Lives in Elberton. But, I mean, he's the type. We host a Christmas tournament every year, and I have to order all the, all tournament plaques. One year, totally slipped my mind. I'm sitting at the house. The tournament starts on the 27th. It's December 26th at, like 10 o'clock. And I'm like, oh, my goodness. So I sent him a text. I mean, he had the trophies here, plenty of times, 3-day tournament. So he's, very quick on the turnaround and whatever I've always wanted. He's kind of, to me, like a little hidden secret. I don't know how big he wants to get, but he could be very big if he wanted to be.
Well, but even coaches know too, and you know this, coaches will drive an hour if you can get it to them tomorrow for sure. So like they might not use them all the time, but it's always good to have those in your back pocket because some people it takes, you know, it's going to be 3 weeks to print something regardless of when it is. And so just having that. So that's awesome. So I'll definitely get him added too. So, well, Coach, listen, I appreciate taking the time. It's been a pleasure talking with you and best of luck this season.
I appreciate it.